Good evening, folks. Let's see here. Who do we have here? You guys, if you can, guys, let me know if audio and video is good in comments, please. Adam, how you doing? Oh, goodness, Defiant Munitions. Mr. Pete is here. All right, all right, all right. Well, we're going to have a interesting discussion today. Uh, this is not a new guest. Bill has been on our podcast on a couple occasions, and we were digging into some stuff to significant depth. But I suspect that today we may go deeper. Not only because we're going to have not just Bill present, but his better half, Christina, will be present as well. But things that we are planning to talk about, it's pretty much no escaping the fact that it will take us deep. Tony Gallo, how? So before I bring in our guests for today, let me just do a quick shout out to our sponsors, Ammo Supply Warehouse. Good dudes. They've been around for a while. We know them well. They train. They provide excellent service. For those of you who are purveyors of fine freedom seats, this is the place to go. The other sponsor of our show is Iron Pig Armament. Last word in that armament should give you a pretty decent clue as to what these people do. Exceptional product, exceptional service at the price that is too low for what it is. Hint, hint. Take advantage of it. Last but not least is body sprays from For the Honey Badger Body Sprays, and that is my better half's, Megan's side hustle. You can find the product on our website, sunnypuzikas.com. With that being said, I'm going to bring in our guest. I'm looking at the little screen, and I think we have one out of two present, but we'll go with what we have. And then when the second guest shows up, we will continue from there. All right. There you go. We went a little bit smaller. You guys let me know if audio is still good. Because I'm detecting a little bit of echo. Well, people say it's not a little bit of echo, it's bad echo. That is not necessarily good. Let me try to figure things out. Out now, folks. But how about now, folks?
That's better on my side.
Okay, I had to switch to a different microphone.
Okay.
Let me see. Still no echo. Everything is good, Christina?
It is over here.
All right. So if it's good on your side, it should be all right for all others. You guys let me know if we are good, and we'll start the conversation. Clem, is echo gone? Man, these guys.
Worse?
Echo is worse.
Huh.
Okay, this is weirdness. Hold on, let me see something.
How would I fix the Sonny's audio playing through Bill's mic?
Okay, this is aired. Hold on, let me see. Okay, I switched back to my strong mic. But now I have to connect the headphones so I can hear you guys. Sorry, unexpected technical difficulties. We couldn't. Mr. Paravanno was teaching a class. Guys, let me know if the echo is gone now. The echo is gone now. Echo's still there.
That could have been an old comment because it just came in. Okay.
Let me.
Yeah, it's as soon as I unmuted myself, then it started. How about now? I just switched my mic.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
And me? Great. Okay, we're good.
Can you guys hear me though?
All good.
All right then. Well, since sounds like we were able to fix our audio problems, we're gonna jump right into it. So when you guys first I guess let me introduce you because people have seen Bill before, but most of dudes and dudettes probably much about Bill's better half, Christina. We have met, we have spoken, and so I'm familiar with this young lady. But Christina, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers as far as in the context of what we're going to be talking about, and I guess how did you came into the field that you're currently in and what you're doing, and how does that connect with Bill's focus in what he's teaching?
Okay. So and here we have Bill.
Hey, Sonny.
Hey, Bill.
All right.
We're good now, huh? Oh, we got people here. Everybody's. Hi.
So I am by trade a homeopathic practitioner, and homeopathy is a natural system of medicine that uses a tiny dose to stimulate the body to heal. And it's very specific in how it uses medicines because we are looking to match your symptoms to a specific remedy so that everything's covered. The body kicks in its self-reparative mechanism. We don't have side effects, and you actually get well. You don't get attached to or dependent on medications. You don't have side effects. I got to there because I had chronic health issues, and they weren't getting better. They weren't resolving. I had always gotten side effects every time I'd try natural or conventional drugs. I mean, like everything gave me side effects. So there was always this like, there's got to be a better way. But I wasn't raised that way. So it took a lot of digging to find homeopathy. So when I did, it was kind of like, oh yeah, that's the magic bullet I've been looking for. As far as how it relates to what Bill does and the body work he does, the body work he does is like a natural releases tension patterns. And he's often described it as the homeopathy of body work. So using very small, and you can explain this better.
Well, all we're talking about is exaggerating patterns patterns in the body or the nervous system. So homeopathy, you could look at it through a homeopathy lens. Homeopathy self-corrects what ails in the body. Physically, you can exaggerate that. Systema does the same thing in terms of exaggerating the patterns of what's going on in the neurology of an opponent or somebody that you're fighting.
Okay, so I noticed, I mean, it's not a new thing, but lately, from number of sources, and obviously speaking to you, Bill, and then some of the Systema folks from Western Europe, and then one gentleman from Japan, and then in conversations with Vladimir, it seems like there's more often what's being mentioned is the neurological factor in and how it affects our performance.
Mm-hmm.
Because most people, they have this thing that, well, as long as I understand and I mentally can wrap myself, around the idea, that changes, it starts with my thoughts, my mind controls everything, and it goes from there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like, it's much too simple to say it, but would you say that we kind of short-circuiting past the mind? Because our mind, I think, what happens is that mind has some defenses, because it's preconditioned to believe certain things. We do have this inner belief system of whatever however we arrive there, it doesn't really matter. And it shapes our perception.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when we address more on the neurological dimension, it seems to me that this would be kind of it changes the inner lens. You know what I mean? It's kind of like we remove this big brain of ours out of the picture, so to speak. And then we allow something else within our system to work and to learn, so to speak, because our mind, I think a lot of times it prevents, whether it would be our nervous system or even, skeletal muscular system, it prevents certain things because we create these logical defenses, and that logic is shaped on our preconceived notions, our beliefs that we want to keep, and so on and so on. Would you guys mind to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, that's. I see it as in training, in systema, in homeopathy, yeah, even in orthodoxy. There's this. We want to get to the essence of who we are and how our body is made to function, and our mind gets in the way many times. Our mind, what in systema, I see that we're trying to tap into that innate knowledge and intuition that when we touch our hand to a hot stove, our hand pulls away from the hot stove faster than our brain processes that the stove was hot. Or if you have something thrown at your face, you don't think, oh, there's something coming at me. I'm going to move out of the way before there's this cognition of going, oh, I need to think about how I need to move myself out of the way. That's our hardwiring on how our body is designed to operate and function. And our brain gets in the way of that in trying to learn or trying to do something that prevents us from tapping into that innate knowledge and intuition.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Would you say that, when you're talking about something like something's being thrown at us, or we touch something very hot, and you can say that our reaction is precognitive. On the cognitive level, we haven't yet realized that this is hot or this is danger, but something in our body, something within our system reacts to it before, cognitively through logic or whatnot, we can put two and two together and go like, oh shit, this is gonna hurt, right?
Right.
Let's move out of the way. Because if we went with that, just with that, I would submit to you that using conventional logic, cognitive processes in a high stress situations, oftentimes you will be behind the curve.
Yes.
Especially if it's, at the fast pace, things are evolving, and not necessarily everything follows some kind of a blueprint, so to speak. If this happens, then next thing will happen is going to look like this. There's a lot of unexpected, there's a lot of chaos. So would you say that approach that seems to be more people seem to start talking about is that, for the lack of better term, we are shaping, molding, and rewiring our deeper seated intelligence that is not controlled by, conventional cognitive processes?
I'd agree with that. Yeah, definitely agree with that.
Christina, you're more than welcome to chime in too, because I see you smiling about things. So, when people smile like that, I go like she has something to say, or she just enjoying herself. I'm not sure.
She's taking notes.
I'm smiling because there's going to be a point when I start talking, it's going to completely change the landscape of the conversation because.
Sorry, guys. Looks like I lost you there for a second.
Can you hear us now?
I can hear you guys now.
Okay. What I was saying is I was smiling and not saying anything because when I start talking about this, it'll completely change the landscape of the conversation because of the viewpoint that I want to bring in. Yes, we can change a lot of things in our neurology, in how we view the landscape of what we're dealing with. We can train. We can bring in new reflexes, like when we train gun running and gun handling, you are training your neurology, your reflexes to do a certain thing. Even when your mind's not focused on that, you're automatically reaching, pulling the draw straight out. You have certain things that are in your reflexes, okay? They become a pattern. And we can do this same thing with breath work, with systema movements. We can slow the mind down so that we can gain more awareness of what we're doing, right? So we can make certain changes. But then there's going to come a point where we all know we've got limitations, and we may not even be completely aware of what our limitations are, that none of these things that I've just talked about are going to help. But this is where homeopathy comes in and starts changing the landscape of people don't even realize it's possible. Like limiting thoughts and thought patterns. Like, what if there's a program running in the background that I'll never be good enough, I can't do this. Like, there's always there's somebody that's going to get me, or like there's like a paranoia stuff, or self-doubt stuff, or anger, or impulse control. There's only so much you can do with the kinds of training that we were talking about before to limit that and to calm that down. And this is where homeopathy can come in and completely shift things in a way that it's kind of amazing, miraculous, if you will.
Sonny, if I may put perspective on this,
Sure.
Did a post within the past several days that I saw on Facebook, and you were talking about something about our if we can stand at the edge of what we know, and then the training happens on the other side of that, in the void, in what we don't know. And what Christina is talking about is definitely on the edge of what I don't know. It's like I have this idea from martial arts training, from life, from body work, all of that thing. And then all of a sudden, homeopathy comes in out of left field and then shifts that whole paradigm in some way that it's like, oh, well, I'm not doing that thing anymore. And I honestly don't know how to quantify it or qualify it at times. It's just like on this other side of my awareness that, that's, I guess, the best way I can contribute to my understanding of it.
I'll give you a good example. It's a little bit personal, but there was some emotional pattern coming up in myself that I was just raging and pissed off inside. Like I
know the feeling.
I would feel so upset, like if I felt disrespected, or and this could be from like somebody just not looking at me when they were talking to me, or feeling like a decision was made and I wasn't consulted, and it was mostly in the family nucleus. Okay. And I really worked on this. I prayed about it a lot. I would look and see, okay, I'm being sensitive. I kept rationalizing, and I'd stuff it down. I'd work on it, and to a point, and it just would fucking blow up. And then revengeful thoughts would come in, like just this boiling over, like inside, and I couldn't control it. I would do my best, and most people may not even notice that I was so upset. But then, at some point, snippy comments, what's it called? Passive aggressive stuff would happen. And it was really eating me up. My homeopath prescribed a remedy for me. It was made from a snake venom. interestingly. And it completely, after the first dose, a situation like that happened. And it was like, oh, okay, well, they're tired. They weren't paying attention to what happened. And I was able to like move on. It was the craziest thing. I was like, what just happened? Why am I not like going to rage? And so this is the kind of subtle thing that like you can't really, it's nebulous. It's almost miraculous, and it's hard to discuss until you experience it. And then something just kind of like some old emotional pattern, some limitation just kind of starts melting away over time of taking the limit.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Would you say then that, hold on, let me put myself on the screen there. That way I'm not talking like a non-existing voice from somewhere from the clouds and stuff, you know. So I'm trying to think how to phrase it. So you say that through homeopathy, through using certain things, in a way we can change, I guess, or at least adjust our inner lens, for the lack of better term, to a certain degree,
Yeah.
And then the outer world, because of different lens, so to speak, it may start to look slightly different. So basically, it's like altering our perception, right? Because we may fall into certain loops, like one person here mentioned that, I stopped listening to certain kinds of music. I can actually relate to that, because there was time when I was listening to certain music, and not necessarily heavy metal, but there's a lot of like, negativity, whining and this and that, it's kind of like, it's better to switch to "She thinks my tractor is sexy," and then at least everything is freaking positive, But again, I can relate to that. Oh, looks like connection was lost for a minute there. Can you guys hear me okay now?
Yeah, we ended on something about a sexy tractor.
Yeah, I was saying that, from a negative music, it's better to switch to that song "She Thinks My Tractor Is Sexy," at least to become positive, But again, what I'm trying, I guess, to figure out here is that, Christina, so when you say that, I'm trying again to think how to phrase it. Would you say that homeopathy provides somewhat of a enhancer, where our limitations, when we start working on our neurological responses and on, where those limitations kind of come into play, then through homeopathy or certain things, we can go further with that? It's kind of like using drugs, using steroids. I know it's poor example.
So yes and no.
I'd say give a concrete example, because we're talking about theoretical kind of concepts, and I think if you gave like a concrete example of a client that you worked with, or stuff, that way it would land the plane, I think, a little bit better.
So I guess, let me think of how to start this. The things that we get stuck in are actually limitations due to our pathology, if you will, are like these low-grade programs of illness, of, in Orthodoxy or Christianity, you'd look at it as sin that's like running the show. So, and then, hold that thought. We'll come back to that. Let me give you the concrete example that I was thinking of. I had this 74-year-old client who fell and hurt her hip. And she ended up having to go into the hospital, have, surgery. After the surgery, she was just so depressed, so anxious, crying all the time, like a lot of time throughout the day. And the thing she kept saying was how alone she felt, and there was nobody to take care of her. And her family was there every single day coming in. Everyone's calling her to check in on her. So objectively, from the outside, there was really no reason for her to feel that way. You know, there was a support system in place. You know, nothing from her family support had changed. So when I look at a case like that, I'm looking to see what's going on. She feels lonely. She's crying. She's depressed. She's lost hope, of despair of recovery. And when I find a remedy that matches that, and I give it to her, and I gave it to her, then her whole perspective shifted. And the last time I talked to her, you know, after she had started the remedy, she's like, oh yeah. She's like, I'm feeling really good. I cannot believe how well my recovery is going. I didn't think I could recover like this. I haven't cried, and I haven't even snapped at my family, which I forgot to mention. She had snapped at somebody, and she never snapped. She's like really calm and even keel. I mean, that was more of an acute example. Should I go deeper?
Yeah, I think I'd tie it in with the cognitive overload. You know, that whole piece. And
so
when we're trying to heal, when we're trying to get past a sticking point in our life, we have these programs, if you will, that are running in the background, like too many windows open on your phone or on your computer. And what homeopathy could come in and do is shut down a lot of these programs, shut down these things so you can address the task at hand and then move forward. So the body has a greater capacity to heal. And then cognitively, you have a greater capacity to be present to what's going on in your life, relationships, family.
So would you say that it's something, I read the phrase somewhere, I think someone referred to it as like automatic neural loops, you know, where we kind of like, we have habits that run, so to speak, below awareness level, and they
Yeah.
kind of like almost like a, you know, it's almost like a CIA operation that quietly shapes our behavior, if you know what I'm saying.
A way of, yeah, that would work.
Yeah.
So
There's another example.
I'm just trying, sure.
Let me give you this other example too. There's another woman that, so back in September of 24, we went through Hurricane Helene here in Appalachia in Western North Carolina. And it was intense. It was catastrophic. It was crazy. This woman reached out to me just a few months ago, and she was still in cognitive overload, major cognitive overload from the shock and the trauma of all the destruction that happened to her property, to her animals, to her house, to everyone around her. And she was failing at life. She was worried about driving because she wasn't seeing things on the road. She was making bad decisions. She couldn't talk to any of her friends because all of her friends had so many going on that she would get really spun out just listening and trying to like comfort her friends. She could walk through her house and she couldn't see what needed to be done because she was in such cognitive overload because she was still in shock. So when I took her case and when I'm looking for remedies to help, it's to help get her out of shock, get her out of trauma so that she has more bandwidth, because her memory was failing too, because all this bandwidth was wrapped up in still being stuck in the shock. Now, this was more of an acute example. Most people, it's become this chronic thing. Everything just kind of builds up on top of each other, like the stress of your work, the stress of children, the stress of a new job, the stress of, you know, the events going on in the world, poor sleep, the EMFs and the Wi-Fi around us, like all these things add up and they take up a lot of bandwidth. And we're not always able to overcome them with changing our environment, like what, the product of what we choose to keep around us. That helps, but then there's a whole other layer we can go in with homeopathy, which makes us more impervious to the stresses to the new job, to the children, and to the Wi-Fi. And that's where homeopathy really shines, is it works on the inside level to like raise the river instead of lower the bridge, if you will.
So would you say that it's somewhat of a, I don't know how to say it now. Is that somewhat of a choice? You know, me and Bill, we talk, and again, it's not something new in the science, be it psychology or psychiatrists that work with people, right? Uh, you know, modern world is such and modern life is such that, you know, most people, due to fears, due to anxieties,
Yeah.
their nervous system is like survival mode. It's like it's like a chronic threat response, for the lack of better term. You know, it's like a long term, never going away. You know, my hands are like this, and because the whole life around me is trying to destroy me, everything is a threat.
Um,
So would you say then that both in negative and positive way, uh, our brain, it doesn't just observes our body, it actually it participates in what the body does. So it's not like, you know, a lot of people think that, you know, brain is this leader, is this locomotive that drags the train of our body after it, and whatever my mind tells me, the body does. Well, question can be asked, obviously, is your brain telling your body the right thing? More deeper question is this truly the case, or is this more of a balanced exchange, and maybe even what's happening in our body, both physiologically, you know, what happens with our many systems as far as what kind of things being dumped into a system due to our constant threat response, chronic threat response, you know, that our brain and what our body does.
Mhm.
yeah, there's definitely a lot of evidence from a clinical perspective that it's not just about our mind and emotions, and it's not just about our body. Like, it is kind of this whole closed system that can be also affected by things on the outside and by nutrition and shocks and traumas and, you know, all those things.
I think it's all woven together. I think there's this, you know, is it my thoughts, or do my emotions play a role in it? My physical body plays a role in it. The elements that Christina was just talking about play a
It's all of
role.
the above.
Yeah,
Mm.
and when you start tugging on that string, everything starts to unravel. To look at, to observe, and to see what needs to be changed.
Okay, so Bill, I'm gonna ask you a question now, because we were interrogating Christina here, and she's like, "Hey, hey, hey, you know, what is this patriarchy? All the hits are coming towards a woman."
Not at all.
So, so Bill, how do you think this more of a holistic approach to us rewiring our functions? How do you think, from the perspective of, you know, let's remove other factors and other things that we're talking about, but strictly within the framework of Systema? How is that from your experience being addressed within Systema training?
The holistic.
The holistic approach to increase our functionality. So it's not, you know, memorizing the techniques or learning how to hit, but like that video that you guys posted of the lady showing the scapular movements, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
I've been doing this for years on the horizontal pull-up bar, you know, where a lot of times your hands are up and your scapulas are both up, and then you just do not full body pull-up, but just moving your scapula, you're moving your body up and down a few inches. It's incredible. You can do it in push-ups, you can do it in spiders, you can do it in so many different exercises. But you try to show it to people and they go like, "Hey, it's not going to build my deltoids to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, damn it, I'm not interested."
Right. Yeah, I think Systema, in my experience, there is the ability to isolate tension and move tension around um, through awareness, through breath, through relaxation. And I think Systema is a continued study of those elements of how can I isolate tension just in one scapula, the other scapula, or both. Um, and how my breath relates to that tension that I'm creating. Do I increase the tension in my body as a result of isolating tension in one area? Or do I have more awareness and control of that tension? What is my fear response in a situation? Do I stop breathing? Do I stop thinking? Am I able to gain awareness um, in other parts of my body? Especially one of the things that I've been working on is at the point of contact, our awareness tends to go to the place where contact is made. But how can I have that awareness of at the point of contact, yet shift that awareness to the rest of my body? So I'm not just locked in where a person is pushing me or where I just got hit. So that ability to switch from the tunnel vision to the wide angle vision, the tunnel vision, wide angle vision, I think is a practice for health and healing. It's a practice for life. It's a practice for, gosh, so many different things. And in doing so, you're not just locked into this is one way, that there are other options that can be applied in this situation. So Systema I see as a direct mirror for life, or how to approach life, how to live life. And when we have that, tying it back into the topic that we're talking about, the cognitive overload, is when we're cognitively overloaded and we have a challenge, all our awareness goes to the challenge and it doesn't see all the other options to get out of how to access more of who we are to bring to the table to find a solution for the challenge that we're presented.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that I sometimes talk in when on a rare occasion, when I teach knife work. When I say that, knife has, certain characteristics. Yes, I can do certain damage. I can cut, I can slash, I can do this and that. But on the psychological level, knife is extremely powerful because it becomes like a cognitive magnet for my opponent.
Yeah.
If he sees the knife, his whole being goes into there. And it's funny because, I was teaching people in one of the classes in the past year or so, and I go like, if the whole thing in the community, like, oh, I want the knife that's non-reflective ninja black knife that no one can see. I'm like, are you like crawling in the woods where the reflection of the moonlight will expose your locations because you're the super duper ninja assassin? I'm like, actually, for the carry, I suggest you have like a mirror polished blade. And if you do have to use that blade once you pull it out, person sees that his whole life, his whole attention, his everything goes there.
Sure.
Which actually allows you, he's not going to see your other hand. You can literally grab the wallet out of his pocket while he's fully focused on that blade. It's kind of exaggeration, but you get the gist.
Right. Yeah.
So one of the comments here from Josh says, I definitely feel that chronic threat response constantly doing repo stops for almost a decade. You met Josh, I believe, last time you were here, Bill. He's the guy who moved here from Ohio. So he was working in a very interesting town in north central Ohio, and I've been to that town. I can testify how interesting that town is. And I can see how doing it almost a decade, or how would I say, shady places with some very shady people repossessing things that they got from a rent-a-center or whatnot, over time can develop that almost chronic, nervousness, anticipatory anguish, kind of a mindset that it becomes hard for people to get away from. On the cognitive level, you explain, you go, hey, dude, this is not good, because your reactions will be shaped by that kind of chronic, or state of being that you in, and you're certainly not going to be the most efficient, nor you're going to come up to the right decisions in a timely manner. So on the cognitive level, they do understand that, but then the problem becomes, right, is that cognition catches up to that in the environment where we teach it, where we explain it, but then when any kind of stress is being presented, it reverts back.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is actually a really good example of the environment and how we have different responses to it. Like for Josh, his response to being in a shady area was to have hypervigilance, to be more prepared, to make sure that he's going to be the last man standing. Whereas other people may respond with fear, paralysis, and not going outside, not even wanting to leave their house. And everything then becomes this, complete like shutdown and anxiety ridden thing. So this point that I'm bringing up is to illustrate that we all have different reactions to stimulus. Like it's very individualized. And so when we were looking earlier at, controlling our environment and all the things around us, yes, some of that can help, but there's still going to be like the individual responses that we have to external stuff. Just like when two people get a cold, they don't necessarily have the same symptoms, right? Like they can have completely different things, yet they're still both labeled as a cold. Systema, what are you guys doing when you're training? You are working on your own response to situations and stimuli, right?
Yeah, we're all going to have a different reaction or response to any one given situation. Somebody tries to grab you around the neck. One person may just walk up. Another person may compromise their spine. And a third person may do something completely different.
But yeah. I will interject here a little bit, right? So, I posted here recently, the last few days, couple short videos out there on the interwebs of this very controversial system of work where it doesn't look like you're doing anything hard, but people just fall just because it's magic or it's bullshit. And there was a question from one gentleman today, which I appreciated because it was, it was not some kind of a trap question. He goes, well, how that this stuff works. The work showed low intensity, how, and I think for a lot of people it's kind of hard to wrap their minds around that in our work within Systema, we're not testing specific move or specific technique. It's diagnostics of our own underlying systems and how they function. So, when Bill says that different people will react differently, but I can also tell you that if I look at most guys that have been training under Vladimir or been, kind of walking that path for significant amount of years, that underlying systems function, I would say, quite similarly. Although physical expression may be slightly different, but there are certain things that do kind of fall. If you have eyes, you can see certain patterns.
Mm-hmm.
There was a comment here from one of our listeners. Cultures believe that certain organs and body parts are linked to emotions, those emotions causing illness in said parts if not addressed. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yep.
Yeah, yes, and I know there's a big correlation, for example, Chinese medicine with like, grief in the lungs or fear in the kidneys and adrenals. It can actually, like from what you see in clinic when you're looking through the homeopathic lens, like it can be even more complicated than that. And sometimes we don't even know, you can't even always put your finger on the fear that they experience caused the kidney thing. Because maybe they inherited a kidney disease and they also have fear, but they never had like a stress. The two just kind of came at the same time. And that would be because of their individual sensitivity that I was getting to earlier. You know, like, yeah, this is where it gets really.
It's like a chicken or egg, and
Mhm.
Sonny, we've spoken about this before in the special forces community. You have I may be speaking out of turn, but I want to go delicately into this. But there's certain characteristics of people that would go into that community. There's certain traits, and it's a little bit of a chicken or egg. Did they have these issues when they come out of that situation in the military? Did they have those issues as a result of going into the military, into those military situations, or did they have those traits that drew them to go into the military that now it's just expressing itself on the other side of that experience?
Yeah, because not everybody has the constitution to go into special forces.
Yeah, I believe it's not just a constitution thing, Christina. I'm of a firm belief that desire to go into special forces, and I'll call it that, desire, because there's a lot of young men that see some kind of a, they'll say, man, this is cool, or this is glorious. They'll use all kinds of, explanation. I want to fight for freedom, or I want to defend those who cannot defend themselves, or, I'm this pretty much holy warrior that's going to go and do Lord's job out there. Uh, Reality is a lot more bleaker. I can tell you from personal experience, from observing, from having a lot of students that do come from those communities. And I'm talking people that been doing this for decades. I'm not talking, I spent 6 months in a Ranger battalion, or I went to a jump school, thus I am, whatever. Um, I do believe that majority of dudes that do have desire to go into it, there is certain predisposition
Mhm.
to want to do certain things. And I'm not gonna tread very carefully, but I would say that a lot of fellas that want to go there and do those things, they do have certain tendencies that sometimes border on a psychopath framework. And a lot of people get upset about it because they go like, I'm like, no, that's not necessarily that you psychopath, but you do want to find some kind of a to exercise power that otherwise you cannot in quote unquote civil society. You do want that experience of godlike experience of making decisions of life and death on your own. And I'm not saying that everyone is like that, but I met a lot of dudes that were like that. Some of them came out of that successfully and turned their lives around, and they changed their whole framework and their mind space, so to speak. Some dudes stay like that forever after coming out.
Yeah. Some people come out more damaged than others.
Yeah, well, they feel victimized, which is kind of funny, because they chose that path. They went in there, and I believe they not necessarily come out more damaged by experiences, Christina. I believe that especially dudes that have been doing it for many years, when you go to military, especially into combat operations, and you do it for a prolonged period of time, it's not easy, but it's simple. It's black or white. It's kill or be killed. Then you come out of that and you come back into civilian life, civil society. There's all the shades of gray. A lot of what people call PTSD comes to be is because coming out of simplicity of black or white, now you're stepping into a full spectrum of colors where, there's a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Sure, sure. And I'd also say too,
you guys seem to be frozen. I don't know if it's my connection or your connection.
Is it back now?
Yes, it's back.
Okay. Yeah, I'd also say too that, even like the example with the cold earlier, when you put two people in the same kind of situation, under emotional stresses, under long-term demands of special forces, since we were talking about that everyone's going to have a slightly different reaction to that. And some people will not be able to go as far because they come upon the limitations of their emotional reactions to it. Other people are able to internalize it less and integrate it better and keep going. And then some people will become cognitively overloaded by the PTSD, by the traumas, and they will have more damage, more or less capacity to do that. And that's where I was talking about the Constitution being differently. Like, you've got two guys who want to serve, and one of them has, and they both have like the really strong desire, but one of them has low blood pressure, and he faints whenever he gets a shock. His constitution's not going to allow him to go into a stressful situation and be able to perform what he needs to do. And that's a limitation he has in his health, something that homeopathy can help. But that's what I'm talking about, like with the Constitution. Like, there's just, even the way we process our emotions can be treated and can be improved upon. It's like a little tiny little signal that we can give to the body, to like the little cheat code that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. So, Christina, I do have a question for
No
you. No, to you specifically about that. So, I don't know how much of it you can, in a compressed time frame that we have explained, but when you look at not situations, but I guess certain issues that people may bring forth, and through your experience, you see that certain reactions that they have, certain traits that they display can be connected to that which you consider, some kind of a remedy. And you go, here's what you take. How do you connect those things? I understand there's years of knowledge, experience, studying, and all that, but are there any kind of like specific, like a big red flags that you look at and you go like, oh, this is definitely guiding me in this direction?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting to start off the conversation saying that when they do approving on a homeopathic remedy, so approving would be like a drug trial for conventional medicine. So when they do approving on a remedy, they give the substance to healthy people. They don't try the remedy out on sick people like they do in a conventional drug trial. So when they give this substance and it starts to cause symptoms, like it'll cause emotional disturbances, it'll cause pains and twitches and bowel changes and bladder changes and thoughts, food craving changes and changes in how they eat. All of those things are written down and carefully notated. Even like the character of the pain, whether it's burning, aching, dull, all those things. Like, it's all very, very specific. So that is, from a starting point, like, that's a little bit different. And bring me back, Sonny, there was
I think the piece that Sonny's looking for is, in your experience,
The red flags and stuff,
What are
yeah.
the things that pop for you in there?
So we're looking at those, specific symptoms for remedy. Like I'm looking for patterns that are not health. Like,
Okay.
for example, a baby that I took the case of the other day, the mom's like, oh, I was like, how's the baby's disposition? And she's like, oh, the baby's fine. She's normal. Well, she likes to be held a lot, she said. And she's nursing. She wants to nurse all the time during the day, but that's normal. And I'm like, mm-mm. I was like, that may have become a common pathology, but that's not normal. A baby that wants to be held all the time and is not content to be put down or not comfortable when put down, that's not normal. So it really takes a deeper understanding. When you study this vast body of literature and symptoms that can be brought out by the remedies, then you start to have this deeper understanding of what sickness and dis-ease really is. And it's kind of shocking. Like I could say some stuff that's really, really controversial right now. Like,
Hey,
You're on the right,
this
you're
is
on the right
this
podcast. Do it.
okay,
like this place. We don't run away.
I mean,
from
here we go then.
Just a week ago.
Here we go. So
Go for it.
there are substances that can induce feelings of falling in love with a married person, attraction to the opposite sex, to bestiality, to sexual perversions. These are known symptoms in our materia medica. So when I see this stuff, that substances can cause this, yeah.
Sorry. Time out. Please do not tell me anything about bestiality and what can bring it up, because
Oh, I wasn't going to go any further on that.
if someone becomes that, I don't think that going to confession will be quite enough for me. You know what I'm saying?
Got it. But the point I was going for was that when you start studying the symptoms that have been brought out by substances over time, you just have a completely different understanding of what is sickness and what is health. And when people are like, oh, he was born that way, or, that's just how I am. I'm like, no, it's really not. Like, you have no idea what your life could look like if that layer was removed. And this is, and this is completely not even going into the whole orthodox part of it. We're just staying in the homeopathic clinic here, but I did mention it, the attraction to the opposite sex.
No, the same.
Same sex. Right. Did I say opposite? Yeah, same sex.
Of course, Louis has a question.
Okay.
Louis, goodness,
Yeah.
man. Of course, he says for a friend.
Okay, so here's a good one. You may be brushing your teeth with a fluoridated mint toothpaste. Fluoride can cause hardening of the brain. It causes a loss of creativity. It causes like the bones to become porous and the enamel to become deficient. Mint causes us to have this exuberance about doing mundane work. So if you're kind of thinking ahead on this and you're putting it together, if we're using this substance every day, we're getting stuck in a 9-to-5 job. We are cogs in a wheel of some greater scheme of, we're just freaking sheep, doing the man's work. What better combination to give us than a mint flavored fluoridated toothpaste that makes us happy, non-thinking, non-creative worker bees?
Yeah, I think Louis was asking more about things that you mentioned about certain sexual perversions and things like that. If he accidentally would come into contact with that, and of course he's asking for a friend, not that he would be interested in that.
It's the big spoon or little spoon. Define, Louis.
Well, in short, stay away from soy for sure. But yeah, we can have another conversation about that, but you can totally antidote it with the homeopathic remedy.
Yeah, so Josh says that's asking for Tim. We will get you. We will get you up to speed, Christina, as far as who Tim is, and you will understand why we're using that guy
Okay.
as an example. Anyway, this has gotten off the rails quickly with Lewis's comment that he was asking for a friend. Listen, on the little bit lighter note, can you guys talk a little bit more or give a little bit more of a preview, so to speak, how as much as you're willing to give? What are we going to be doing here when you guys are here as far as the seminar itself, and then what you both separately, respectively, offer in your sessions for people that want to have some one-on-one sessions with you guys?
Mhm.
Yes. Oh, okay. So for the seminar, we're going to be digging into grip, finger tension in hands and fingers, as it relates to grip strength, as it relates to carpal tunnel. There's a lot of things. Tension builds up in the hands. Hands, especially because we use our hands so much in our life. When you're, whatever we do, we're always using our hands. And 30% of the tension in the body can be relieved by relaxing the tension in the hands and the feet. We're going to be focusing on the hands and the feet during the seminar as far as how can we change the neurology in the hands so the hands relax and in the feet as well. Because if we're talking about trying to grip things, if we're talking about our balance, we're talking about ankle injuries, foot injuries, toe injuries, and things like that that affect balance. We're going to be addressing a lot of that. One of the things that actually was inspired by Megan, she had a question about orthotics. And I did a post the other week about these adjustable orthotics that we're going to create for everybody's shoes. We can see where, as we stand and evaluate as I shift from side to side and forward and back and on the diagonals, there's little like low spots in the tension in our feet that affect how we move, how we walk. And everybody's going to build these orthotics for their shoes that we'll build them during the seminar that will bring stability to their movement.
So let me interrupt you here for a second, because I already bought like 6 boxes of those materials, because I'll be selling them at $10 a pop per single item, because me and you talked about it, and I go like, man, what a genius business idea. You know what I mean? Like, people think, like these orthotics, this is going to be something, elaborate to bring inside the shoe and all that stuff. But once you told me what it is, I'm like, shit, man, this is the quickest way to become a millionaire. It's a joke, but not really.
The orthotic piece, we're going to be making them out of business cards.
Oh, you just ruined my business. I was gonna sell business cards for $10 a piece. Damn it!
Everybody needs to buy 10 business cards.
There you
go. But no, we'll be able to evaluate everybody standing there and evaluate these places where these gaps are and begin to build up the feet in a way where it brings stability. And it's like, once you dial in the exact spot where these low spots are in our feet, and you can recognize this by turning an old pair of shoes over, ones that you've been wearing for years, and you'll have wear patterns. Some will be in the toe, some will be in the heel, some will be on the sides of the foot or the inside of the foot, depending on how the feet drop, the arches drop, or what's going on in the knees or in the hips can affect those wear patterns in the shoes. And when we begin to build up these areas where these gaps are in the feet, the structure reorganizes around it, and it's instantaneous.
You get stronger, your grip strength gets better, your breath gets better. Like, it's amazing what happens when he does this work.
So it'll be fun.
That's pretty cool. Well, I had a question from Kat, from one of our listeners here. Let me put it up there. Got anything for pain stimming, like picking up at the sides of your fingers out of stress?
Yeah, definitely. We look at, and when, just to give you the overview of how I would look at and approach a situation like that, it's like, what's going through your mind? What are what are your repeating thoughts? What are things that stress you? How do you respond to stress? Like, what are the things in your life that you are dealing with? How's your digestion? How's your sleep? Like, we look at all of these things before I choose a remedy, because I'm going to match those patterns that you have specifically. And then those little stimming responses, like picking at your fingers or, twirling hair, or, all that stuff goes away.
Okay.
It's cool.
Things that, and just from my own personal experience in working with Christina, is that you would have that specific symptom, whatever it is. And she's asking you all these questions that you're like, what does that have to do with, this stuff that's going on in my fingers? But she's matching up a bigger remedy, a bigger pattern that's going on, not only in your hands, but also in your body and in your life, that when she finds that specific remedy, it like moves. It's a game changer for everything.
Yeah, like kids that suck their thumb until they're 7 years old. Or, people that crave alcohol. Like, even when I'm looking at how people are affected by stress and they tend to go to alcohol, even the kind of alcohol that they like is important in the symptoms I'm looking for. Like, it's so crazy. Even the fact that they crave steak and they're averse to vegetables, like, that's important. Or that they like salt or sweet things. Like, all those things, we're going to talk about your poop.
Oh boy.
Like, all of that stuff's really important.
The show devolved again.
I'm like, damn. I mean, we already talked about, bestiality and things, and now we're getting to that. I'm like, let us attend show is becoming quickly, like, who are these people, right?
I mean, the herbalists already think the homeopaths are like really messed up in the brain, because we use substances made from like snake venom, or like poisonous substances like arsenic or belladonna, like deadly nightshade. And they're like, what? You're using snake venom? You're using a cancerous tumor? Like, I'm like, yeah, you thought you had the corner on the weirdness.
Yeah. By the way, folks, right here, there's a little thing that you can aim your camera at the QR code, and it will take you straight to the website. This is for Bill's seminar coming up February 28th, March 1st here in East Texas. This is second time Bill will be teaching here in East Texas. I cannot tell you how good the first time was. It's amazing. Extra bonus this time, Bill is coming with his better half, with Christina. And if you guys are kind of slow on the uptake, this lady seems to know quite a bit about more than just bestiality and your poop. So it's kind of unique. It's kind of unique opportunity to to sit down besides the seminar itself, but to have like a one-on-one session that, if you go to the website, you'll see how it's structured and what you can do with it. And ask questions and present your problem if you have specific ailment or question or issue, and have a conversation and kind of have a little bit of a diagnostics, and they can take a look and see how they can help you with it. So that's pretty damn cool.
I had a guy that came today for ulcerative colitis, and he's like, which of these remedies is for my ulcerative colitis? I was like, well, the one that treats your curmudgeonness. And he's like, me? And I'm like, yeah, you.
You know, the funny thing is, if I try to repeat that word that you said, karma, whatever,
Yeah.
this would become a comedy show off in itself. So I'm not going to do it. Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Bart Stewart jumps in with his comment: bestiality and poop. Man, I'm in. Oh no, he says I'm out. Never mind.
Oh,
I thought you had a hardcore audience here, Sonny. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed.
I thought Bart had more stick to itiveness.
Whew, that's heavy. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like sessions with Christina or myself will be individualized based on what people are dealing with.
Yeah.
We'll go into, as far as what I would work with someone on, looking at how you walk, looking at how you stand, if there's any ongoing issues that you're struggling with. Neck always goes out, lower back goes out. I know some of the guys have had joint replacements and things like that. So you have patterns that even though the joint was replaced, the pattern still is there in the body, even though the joint was replaced. So at best, a joint replacement is a Band-Aid. So we're going to look at the underlying patterns. And then, of course, I'm going to give you homework as well. Mm-hmm. That would be further support for what you're doing, that you can work on that pattern, because you could think of the tension patterns in the body like a knotted ball of yarn, and you got to keep sometimes working at it. And depending on how we're tugging on the strings, sometimes it'll come apart. The knotted ball of yarn will unwind faster in certain spots than others. So when you're looking at something like a joint replacement, you're looking at tension patterns that are going from your feet all the way up to your head. So we'll dig into that kind of stuff. And working with Christina too, we've found that when you work with both of us simultaneously, things shift incredibly fast.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Very cool. Again, folks, the QR code is here at the bottom of the screen. Scan it. It will take you straight to the website, and you can register for the class as well as for the private sessions with either Bill or Christina.
So Bart he sounds a little fastidious.
Oh, Bart is...
Christina already has Bart's remedy.
Christina, let me ask you a question. Are you with Bill to Vlad's seminar in Austin or no?
No.
Nope. Okay, that would have been your chance to meet Bart, because Bart is going to be there. So, Bill, you're going to meet Bart Stewart there. Okay, so cool. This is, by the way, going to be Bart's first time meeting, seeing, and training under Vladimir. So I'm certainly looking forward to that show. Yeah.
And I wanted to address some of the comments too. The histamine issues. Was it Kat that you had the histamine issues? Like those were respond really well to homeopathy. And the chronic illness and going even into a holistic doctor, like it can be really rough for people that are hypersensitive and have histamine reactions when they're going just to any old type of alternative medicine, because even supplements and herbs can be too strong and cause reactions to people who are really sensitive. And that's why homeopathy is it's really great, because we use such tiny doses, like nano-sized doses of substances. It's really just a nuclear magnetic resonance that stimulates the body's self-reparative mechanism. So it almost works like on this electrical level to stimulate healing. And so you're not dealing with any of the chemicals. So it's really great for people that are sensitive. It's really great for people who aren't so sensitive.
There is another question here from one of our listeners. Can you recommend a resource to learn more about those substances?
Yeah. I'm just going to give you the standard warning that every teacher gives you, homeopathic teacher gives you. You're going to start reading about homeopathic remedies and you're going to see yourself in every single remedy. But the short of it is, if you go online and you type in online homeopathic materia medica, MEDICA, online homeopathic materia medica, you'll start to see some sources come up that have the symptoms that homeopathic remedies can cause or therefore treat. Discerning what to use, how to use it, what the 19th century medical terminology language means in modern day stuff, that's a whole other training to be done. But you can start at least learning about some of these stuff. There's a book called Homeopathic Medicines at Home. The last name of the woman that wrote it is Panos, Panos. And that's a really good book to read if you want to start using homeopathic remedies for like acute or self-limiting conditions.
Very cool. Very cool. And Kat here, she had this comment.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Kat, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You know, it's something that you probably, you know, if you're unable to attend the class and then, you know, connect with Christina and talk about those things, find a way to contact Bill and Christina and see if they can, at the very least, maybe guide you in the right direction.
Yeah.
You
work with people online.
You work with people online, but you can start working with her now and then meet her in person at the seminar and work with her there as well. So.
Yes, that is definitely an option. I do work with people online, like over video or phone. Prefer video if it's going to be at a distance.
So, Kat, here on the bottom slider on the screen, you will see there are two websites referenced: Asheville Systema, that's Bill's stuff, and then Homeopathy and Wellness, ChristinaThevaos.com. It's Christina's website. So I'm pretty sure somehow through that you should be able to connect with Christina and, you know, and then take your lead, so to speak, from there.
Great.
All right. Well, Bill, Christina, anything else you would want to tell folks about what you guys have planned, what else is coming up, not necessarily here in Texas, because I already plugged that event a few times here and I'll keep plugging on social media. But as far as other things that you do in your neck of the woods, I know that Bill is coming to Vlad's seminar here in Central Texas in Austin at the end of this month. So those of you who are going to be there, you may have a chance to pick his brain for a little bit when we're not drinking or punching each other, which is not going to be that often. So there's that. But if you guys want to plug any of your other events or other projects or other things that you're working on, go at it.
Yeah, I welcome whoever wants to come train. You're welcome to come train twice a week. We do Sistema and Pravilo on Tuesday and Sistema and Sauna. We have a wood-fired sauna on Fridays. Coming up beginning of February, the weekend after Vlad's seminar, we're going to have Michael Muckin here. He's going to do kettlebell stuff on the 7th of February. On the 8th, I'll do a healing thing. So we'll do that day as far as that goes. And then we also have a martial arts first aid kit ongoing seminars here at our place in the greater Asheville, North Carolina area, where we're going into different parts of the body. We just had one a couple of weeks ago. We spent 4 hours just working on the pelvis, sacrum, both hips, releasing the tension patterns that were going on there. And
talk about the emotional releases that happen.
Yeah, it gets one of those things that how we hold ourselves, how we stand, how we sit, how we move, there's a huge emotional component to it. We're a sum total of all our experiences our entire life. And when you start changing the neurology, it's kind of like all of the mind and the emotions that we have underneath the hood have an opportunity to begin to move out. So it's a big thing. It's not just a physical piece, it's mental and emotional as well.
Mm-hmm. Those martial arts first aid kits, he does them every other month, and they're always on a Saturday. So if that's something you guys were interested in, I would say also scroll out a little bit and come for Friday and hit practice, Systema practice and training that night with the sauna and the cold plunge. And then on Saturday, do the martial arts first aid kit and make it like a weekend thing.
Sure. Yeah, come hang out.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan. All right, folks. So can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, that's good. So, folks, Bill's seminar here, and then with addition of private sessions with either Bill or Christina. This is going to be like a opening salvo of our annual March Madness in East Texas. So we start on February 28th, and then it goes through March. Bill Seminar Martial Arts first 8 days. Then we have a 5-day fear inoculum class. Then we have a 1-day shovel class. Then we have a 2-day Systema Core of Competence class. And the March Madness closes off with 0 to Hero Radio Operator 2-day class. And in between, we're going to have visiting instructor blocks, private training blocks, and on and on. You can find all of those events on sunnypuzikas.com. Fear Inoculum is completely sold out. I cannot open any more spots. We are oversold. But for those of you who want to experience Fear Inoculum, the good news is that Fear Inoculum 2027 is already somewhere on my website. There is the dates for that. Fear Inoculum 2027 will be March 10, 14th, 2027. As it has been the norm for the past 5 years, it will sell out, so don't wait too long, those who are interested. And those of you who are planning to come to March Madness, look at your calendars, look at your things, because with one trip you can kill quite a few birds. Attend Bill's seminar, have some one-on-one sessions with Bill or Christina. They will be present here. Fear Inoculum again is sold out, so you can travel Texas for 5 days and then come back, do the shovel class, do the Systema Core of Competence, or whatever fits your bill, whatever you want to do. Listen, guys, I know Bill looks kind of tired after teaching the class and then straight running into here to do this little live stream with us. I appreciate you guys dedicating 1.5 hours of your time to do this. Guys, please check out Bill's website, Christina's website. I'm going to put the ticker down there again. AshevilleSystema.com and ChristinaThevaos.com. Those are 2 websites. Contact either Bill or Christina or both if you have questions. And if you're going to be here, then you're going to have opportunity to interact in person and actually see and feel the work. And it's it's not addictive in the bad way, but you realize how much there is to know, and that to me often itself is an addiction. When you realize that there's so much knowledge, there's so much things that you haven't explored, or you only touched the very surface of it. And maybe it's just curiosity of my personality, or maybe it is a common human trait. I'm not sure. So I would strongly encourage you guys to take a closer look at all of that. And Bill and Christina, thanks so much for being here with us. I will be talking to you guys soon. I'll be seeing you, Bill, in a short couple of weeks in Austin.
Mhm.
And then we'll see you here in East Texas a month after that, at the very end of February and beginning of March. Do you guys have anything else?
No, I was just gonna say thanks for having us on. Like I had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks, Sonny.
All right, guys. I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate those who tuned in to watch and listen. Share this if you have people that may benefit from information that Bill and Christina have to offer. Let them look at the links. Let them go to the websites. Contact if they have questions or specific needs or specific issues that they're dealing with. And just a quick few announcements as far as my live streams go. I will have few interesting guests coming up here in the next few weeks. One of them, for some of you gun people, is going to be quite unexpected, because it's the person that me and him have very little in common when it comes to training, Mr. Rob Pincus, of, coincidentally, ICE training. And no, ICE has nothing to do with that ICE. But me and Rob, most of the time, we don't see eye to eye when it comes to training and many other issues. But the event that happened in Minnesota, I can say I was quite surprised, because me and Rob, I'm not saying that we saw eye to eye, but we did ask similar questions about that event. So I don't know exactly how it's going to turn out, but Rob, I reached out to Rob and he agreed. This week he's at the SHOT Show, so that's the busy week for him. So we'll connect after the SHOT Show and we'll schedule Rob Pincus to be on. And then we will have one other gentleman. He's a Serbian gentleman that I recently posted some links to his videos on YouTube, where he talks about unmanageable man, becoming unmanageable man due to Orthodox faith. And very interesting individual, very interesting topic. For most men, it's appealing because it's kind of like a call to rebellion, but not in the way most Westerners see the rebellion. A rebellion is actually towards asceticism. A rebellion is towards detaching yourself from the system and not being controlled by temptations of the system. And very interesting dude. So he will be scheduled also within the next few weeks to be on our live stream. And besides that, we will have our regular things. And Louis should be back from the SHOT Show sometime at the end of this week. So hopefully next Monday we will have our other live stream, Students of Violence, where we discuss and dissect different video clips, whether they are training related or actual violence related, shooting, stabbings, street violence, bar fights, and so on and so on. And we give our take on it. All right, folks, this has been episode number 30 of Let Us Attend Livestream. We appreciate you all being here. Thanks to Bill and Christina yet again. And may God bless you all. And we will see you, hopefully, very soon. Sonny Puzikas, out. Okay.